first of all, I'm going to go to my render settings. Remember, that's the second clacker from the right over here. Get my render settings. And you'll probably notice that it only says Maya software, Maya hardware, and Maya vector. So that's no good. So you can close up render settings. We need to have it render with Mental Ray. So in order to load up Mental Ray, we're going to go Windows, Setting Preferences, Plugin Manager. Okay, you probably have done this for like the export to OBJ before. I'm just going to go through this kind of quickly, and then I'll do it again. I'll kind of slow it down. So maybe you just want to watch me the first time, and then we'll do it all together.
Mine has Mental Ray already.
Oh, good. So if you already have Mental Ray, great. If you don't, you have to look for one of these things that's called, I think it's called Maya 2MR. They really make it cryptic. I think it's Maya 2MR, or is it MR2 Maya, or is it down here somewhere? Here it is. It's down here at the bottom. Maya2mr.mll. Hit loaded and autoload. The autoload supposedly means it'll load up next time you start Maya. All right, so now if I open up the render settings, I can go to Mental Ray. All right, I can close that up. Now I want this ball to be glass. So I'm going to right click on it and hit Assign New Material. And I've got, besides the usual Maya, here's all my Maya materials here, right? I now have Mental Ray materials. Now, wouldn't it be nice if the people who made Mental Ray, I guess it's Pixar, what if they thought, hey, we'll make something called glass? Because everyone will know that's what you need to use for glass. But they didn't. Instead, they made it Mia Material X. Again, you may want to take a note on that one. That's class. Mia Material X means glass. Mia Material X. Okay, now that I've got the Mia Material X, I need to look at some presets. I've clicked on it. I'm in my attribute editor. I'm on the very last tab here, Mia Material X, and I've got presets. And luckily, they gave us some presets. I got glass thick, thin glass, solid, frosted glass, all kinds of glass. So I'm going to say thick glass, replace. All right now it's clear. If I hit render right now, I probably won't get much. I get a little bit of surface. That's kind of cool. So it's a little glassy. But again, I really need something for it to reflect. So back to my render settings. Actually, do I even have to go to my render settings? I think they might have put this where you can get to it even easier. Let's try this. Okay, under lighting, I want to create whatever. Create lights. Look, I got a bunch of environmental image, LBJ. You know what? No, they didn't give me what I need. Okay, I thought maybe they had this in the menu now. We're going to go to render settings. We're going to go to render settings. Sorry to confuse you guys. Well, I'll do this whole thing again. I need to go to, there's quality, scene. Here we go. I'm in scene. And here it is, image-based lighting. That's what we're talking about here, image-based lighting. I hit create, and it runs that script that puts the big dome around my work. There it is. And once I have that, I could then, it opens up this search for image thing, and I can go get that HDR file I just got, I hope. Here's the downloads. Downloads. My computer, boot camp, I don't know, where's downloads? Users, oops. My computer, let's try that again. Boot camp, users, Farbrook. Downloads, there it is. There's my HDR. Let's see what it did. There's the room. I don't know if I like exactly the way it's doing it. Let's try mapping spherical or angular. angular looks better. So it looks like if I map it angular, it's more accurate. All right, let me do a quick render and see what that looks like. The glass is a lot more like glass. And in fact, let's see, let's make this something too. I'm going to give this a new material. I think I'll make it also a mental ray. Maybe I'll use one of these car paints or something. Let's do car paint. All right, let's try that. All right, are we starting to get some realism here?
Yeah.
Let's see what else I got to set. Maybe make this even a little bit better. Lights, materials, textures, configuration. See the quality on that was just pretty low. I want to make this maybe better. Sampling, show advanced, there we go. Legacy options, yeah, what do we got here for legacy? Global illumination, final gather, there are caustics. I haven't seen caustics. Oh, here's caustics. Turn that on. I'm gonna turn a few things on here and see what else we got. It's still rendering. Pretty cool, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
What happens if we bring in one of these guys that you're working with from Fuse? Do I have one available? Yes. I got one on a drive. Let me just bring it in. I'm just going to drop it in and show you what that looks like for rendering. And then I'll show you how I just did everything. Once again, since I went really fast. When I do this the second time around, I'm going to do it very slow, and I want everyone to take notes, because there are, and I'll turn on the light so you can see where you're writing. Because there's a lot of weird settings you just have to kind of know, and I've been wrestling with this for many years now and kind of know these settings now. 3D animation, Fuse models. I'll just get one of these. Look at the young girl here, put her on the desktop. There she is. There we go. She's in. She's big. She is there. Wow, she's really big. Let's see if I can shrink her. Better. All right, let's try to render her. See what she looks like. I'm not getting her head. Still not getting her head. All right, we're gonna look at cameras for a second and figure out how to get things like her head where you don't see it. She looks okay. She's kind of shiny. Yeah, she's a little shiny, which means that she probably has a text material that's too shiny. Let me click on her. And I'm going to change her material here. I'll just do that, and then I'll like I said, I'll go back to everything I was doing. Okay, here's my young girl. Where's her stuff? Plane, I don't need that plane. shiny. Alright, there's her mesh. That's the whole group, her mesh group. Okay, can I just make that a different? Hold on. She's got a bunch of stuff. Alright, we'll grab her body. Color. This is annoying. Just trying to make her not so shiny. Where is she? That looks like her. And is she a fawn, or what is she? Fawn, yes, I want to be a fawn. I'll change that. Hang on there. Here, okay, good, here we go. I will go Lambert. Okay, that's all I wanted to do. Alright, now I'll render this. Let's see if she's a little less shiny. Still kind of shiny. Boy, she's reflecting quite a bit. You can start to see the realism in her. I mean, it's a pretty decent render. We just have to work on that shininess on her. Alright. So in general, mental ray is good. You don't necessarily have to use this picture-based rendering. If you know whether you want to or not, you can do it or not depending upon what's working for you and how the model ends up looking. But let me go through everything again, okay? I'm going to get rid of her. I guess I'm going to start new actually. Just start new, and like I said, everyone, please take notes. So open up maybe a Word file if you don't have anything to write with. And I'll turn on the lights here for you. Okay, again, I'm just going to make a few objects, just so you can see the difference. You don't have to use glass for anything if you don't want to. There's, you know, it's not required of any of this. It's ultra realistic rendering is really what it comes out to. So in this case, I think I'm not going to use. I'm not even going to use the glass for the moment. I'm just going to assign some new materials, just give everything some color. I'll use blend so there's some reflectivity. They all reflect. Maybe the bottom one will make a Lambert so it doesn't reflect. Alright, something like that. Alright? So, first of all, you go and download a light probe. There are many sites that have free light probes. And HDR format is fine. It's high definition. So it's kind of an extended range. It's like better than JPEG. It's kind of like RAW, similar to RAW, like camera RAW. So maybe I'll grab this one now, this eucalyptus grove. Okay, so you have to kind of have one available maybe for it. Okay, so let's put in the light probe before we do anything else. So I'm going to open up the render settings. I'm going to switch it to mental ray. Mental ray is better rendering in any case, even if you don't use any light probes or anything. It's just much better. And the shadows are better. Remember I showed you all those rough shadows last time? Well, mental ray does much better. So I'm going to go under Scene in order to make the light probe. So you see where I am here? I've got Common Quality Scene Configuration Diagnostics. I'm going to go to the Scene tab. And here I've got an environment, the Environment tab. I'll shut all this down for a moment. I guess it's under Cameras.
How
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you not able to load the mental ray to make it show up in your menu here?
Yeah.
Okay. So to load mental ray, so maybe make a note of this, put it a little bit further back in your notes. You go Windows, Settings, Preferences, Plugin Manager. We there? You guys got that? Open that up. And you scroll toward the bottom, and you'll see near the bottom, about 3 or 4 up, it says Maya2mr.mll. You click Loaded and Autoload.
What if we don't have that?
Who else doesn't have it? Who else doesn't have it here? Just one? It means it wasn't loaded on that computer. So you may have to switch to another. If you're using a laptop at home, here's the deal with Mental Ray. If you have Maya 2016, you can download Mental Ray for free from Autodesk. It's a plugin. Before 2016, it just came with Maya. Every Maya program had it. 2016, they separated it and said, now you must download it. 2017, you don't get it at all. 2017, they switched to Arnold, and you can have a free 30-day of Mental Ray, and then they start charging a lot of money. Ray as your renderer. Render using, right here. Render using Mental Ray. Right, you got Maya software, hardware 2.0, vector, and now Mental Ray. Everybody with me? Mm-hmm. Okay, next step. Under Mental Ray, we got common, quality, scene, configuration, diagnostics. Let's go to scene, and we're going to create, this is under cameras, should be open already, but cameras, environment, image-based lighting. We're going to hit create. It runs a script. It makes a dome around your work, or a sphere rather. It makes it inside out, and it makes it with the right settings on the lighting. Emit environmental light. I wonder what that does. No, turn that on. See what happens. Light emission. Okay, sure. Maybe it'll brighten things up. Maybe it'll make things too bright. I really don't know. Okay, so once you turn that on, or once you click that button, it should immediately open up your attribute editor with this window. Has everybody got that or not? Anyone not have that? The attribute editor with the window here for your image-based lighting? It should have opened it up automatically. Because here's where you can browse. You have an image name browser folder deal here for that HDR light probe that you went and got. So I'm going to go find mine. Mine's, I got Galileo and some other probe. What was the one that I was using? Was it Galileo? Maybe I'll try the RML. I don't know. That's the outdoor one. Let me try the Galileo one. That's the interior one. Maybe we'll do the outdoor one. Okay, and I'm finding that if you want it to be mapped better, it says spherical and mapping. See where it's right here just above that where you loaded up your file? You go from spherical to angular, and it looks like then the picture looks like it's mapped properly now. I can see the trees and everything. See all this? Now I'm in the environment. Okay, you can hit render right now and see what you got. Takes a little bit longer with Mental Ray. It's got a lot more calculating to do. It doesn't look great. I think it renders better if you use Mental Ray nodes rather than these Maya nodes. So when you make your new materials, rather than taking the Maya nodes, you can take the Mental Ray nodes. Materials. Here's Mental Ray materials. It's all the same. Okay. Except well, it's got all these shiny things. I don't know. I should be able to use the Maya ones too. I'm gonna leave all those Maya materials actually on there. They should be okay too. I don't know why it's not doing a very good job rendering right now. Let's try this again. Alright, I'm gonna do some switching on the settings on this. This looks very odd. So I'm going to go. Okay, show my for a second. Let me just check and see if I still have settings from before. Scene show advanced. Turn it off. Quality show advanced. Legacy ray tracing. No, that's all off. Okay, well let me take my quality out. Overall quality. So this is under quality tab. I'm just gonna take my overall quality and crank it up a bit. And see what happens. Well, you know, I think that problem is because I turned, remember that little checkbox I did for emit light or whatever it was? Maybe that's what's making it render funky. Yeah, this still looks kind of funky. Yeah, I don't want that. I'll take my quality back down. So I'm gonna go back to my image-based lighting. Give me one, I just need to turn something off there. There we go, mental ray. I'm gonna turn off the emit light. And see what happens. Yeah, that's more like what I wanted to see. Okay, so that little emit light check mark, maybe you guys never did it, but if you don't turn it on. It's no good. All right, so there's a render. Oops. Smaller. So already it's looking a lot better on anything that's shiny. If you want to make glass, may as well take this in your notes. So open up your notes again. If you want to make glass, click on whatever you want it to be glass. Set assign new material. Go to the mental ray nodes. And the glass is called Mia Material X. There it is. And in the attribute editor, you want to find a preset. So go to the tab where it says New Material X, it'll be on the far right. And then go to presets. And here's all your different kinds of glass, copper, chrome. Let's pick chrome. That'd be cool. Let's see what chrome renders like. It should be like a mirror. There's chrome. Bring this up. It really is reflecting everything like a mirror. Now here's the thing, maybe you don't want this whole big background picture showing. Maybe you just want it to only have your work showing, but you still want the reflection of it. You just don't want to see this big picture, because right now when I render it, I see this big picture, right? And I want that showing. So you can turn that off. And that is one. I'm looking for it. Is it my scene render sets? No, it's got to be this ball. Pivots, limit display. I'm looking for a tab called Render Stats. Here it is. Okay, so this is going to be another weird one. You got to take a note on this because you'll never remember this one. So you click on the ball, the interior of the ball, click on it. So you can see the ball is being selected. This is the big ball that's around your work. And you go to one tab over where it says mental ray BL shape 1. Click that. Guys taking notes here? This is how you turn off the rendering of the ball. You got to go one tab over. Then you go to render stats down here. And you turn off the primary visibility. Now when you render, you only get your work. But we still get the reflection of that ball. Pretty cool, right? Yes, no?
What was the next step after the mental rate tab, the sheet 1?
You need to turn off the ball?
Yeah.
Okay, so you click the ball so that it is selected. Sometimes it's hard to click, but anyway. It'll open it up to this, right? This is your attribute editor right here, right? You go one tab over where it says mental ray BL shape 1. You then open up the tab here called render stats and turn off, uncheck the primary visibility. And the ball will not render in your rendering. All right, so I think that is enough on this advanced rendering. Windows. Here's my top front side perspective. In order to have these 4 viewports, it needs to have 4 default cameras, and they appear in your outliner. Anybody with me? Questions? Raise your hand if I'm, skipped over something, like how to get to your outliner. So what you can do is click on one of these cameras like your perspective, which is probably what you're going to shoot from, unless you make your own camera, in which case that will also show up in this list if you create a camera. And you've got a bunch of controls here. So I'm in my attribute editor. And to get to your attribute editor generally, you hit Control A for attribute. And you'll get a couple of tabs like your channel box here on the side and your attribute editor. They used to make this a lot easier to deal with, but that's how they do it now. And look at all these camera controls you've got. Let me open all this up. Angle of view, focal length, camera scale, near clip, far clip plane, film gate, aperture in millimeters. So this is like 36 millimeters, this one. Aspect ratio. So let's change a few of these. For example, I just changed the film aspect ratio. Look what it does. Make it even more radical. I guess that's about as radical as it gets. It's sort of like a fisheye. Makes everything look like it's much longer, I guess, right? That's your aspect ratio slider. So it isn't just zooming in and out, it's actually changing the whole perspective here. And watch, when I move it in and out, I get an equivalency just above it. This changes automatically of my camera aperture in millimeters. So if you want to go to like 35 millimeters or something like that, you can. Let's probably put this in, right? 35, 35, 35. There it goes. So that's the equivalent of a 35 millimeter camera. Okay, when I click render, let's see if it's different. See how it's cut off the top of my cylinder? So if you want to look more like what you see is what you get kind of thing. I mean, besides opening and closing your window and trying to make that look right. Let's see if I do that. What do we got here? So that's one way. You can simply make your window wider. Here's what's happening. Here's in my render settings under common. You guys have seen this at the bottom, where here's my width and height in pixels. Depending on how I set this, I then have to try and match that ratio, 2:1, 3:1, whatever it might be, in this window. And if I do that, then what I see is what I'll get when I hit render. If I can match that ratio. So let's say I put my own. Let's say I'm going to do a 5:4, for example. So I could say 500 by 400, or maybe I'll double it. I'll go 1,000 by 800. You can kind of decide for yourself what you want on here. And by the way, your keypad on the Mac won't work because it needs a numbers lock turned on. I forget where that is. So just use the keys above your letters. So I'll do 1,000 by 800 ratio here. So that's going to be a 5:4. And when I render, it looks like that. So again, I could try to match that aspect ratio with my window just by opening and closing the window. And now when I render, what I see is what I get. That's probably the fastest way to get there. Back to the camera. So I'll let you guys play with these. Oh, let me tell you about a couple of these because they won't make sense otherwise. Here's your near clip plane and your far clip plane. That's where it's going to stop rendering. So right now my far clip plane is at 10,000. If I put it at like 500, I keep hitting the wrong numbers. 500. Didn't do anything. What if I put it at 50? Oh, I lost part of my image. So it's saying 50 Maya units, whatever those are, it will stop rendering from wherever my camera is. As soon as I hit 50 units out, don't render any longer. Make it invisible. That's why it makes a line where it just cut everything off. That's the far clip plane. In other words, clip after this number. If I go to 60, I get a little more. So if you see any clipping at a distance, just increase that far clip plane number. Usually it's set really high, like 10,000, which means get everything, for the most part. Gets it all. Near clip plane, same thing. Where do you want to stop rendering when you start coming in to the object? Right now it's at 0.1. What if I made it 2? What if I made, oh, I put the wrong number. 2. There. You see how the near clip plane is working now? See that? How it's clipping that off? I'll go back to 0.1. So you probably won't be using this much, except for to fix it when something's been clipped. You might want to change that number. So there it is. It's really just to fix it. What about depth of field? What if you want stuff in the background to be blurry? That might be really useful, right? If you have somebody standing in the foreground, somebody in the background, you want them to be a little blurred back there so you can actually focus the camera. It gives you a better, kind of more realistic image in general. So we can open up the depth of field tab, and then you can check it, give a little checkbox here. And then you've got a focus distance and an f-stop. So it simulates the f-stops. Who knows about f-stops and depth of field, the relationship? Photographers here. What is it? What's the relationship? What's the ratio? Or it's not really a ratio, it's just a generalized ratio. Who knows it? What happens when you got a lower f-stop? A lower f-stop means that your iris on your camera is wide open and you get lots more light, right? With the caveat that your depth of field is really, really shallow, which means something that you focus on will be in focus and everything around it in different distances will more likely go out of focus. So that's what you lose when you open up that iris really big, is you lose depth of field. Now this can be very useful. If I want a portrait of somebody and I want everything in the background to be out of focus, that works great.
It's called bokeh.
What's that?
That's called bokeh.
Bokeh? What is that?
When you have like your lowest f-stop.
Yeah.
And then your object in the front and in the background is
They
totally
just call that bokeh. I never heard that term. Huh, interesting. Yeah, I would imagine they must have some term for that. I didn't use it so often, right? For portraiture, a lot. Now, if you want everything in focus, then you set your f-stop up to like 22, which means, you know, it really shrinks it down. It becomes more like a pinhole camera. And then everything's in focus for the most part. Whether it's close or far, I mean, within limits. If something's really, really close and really, really far, then yeah, you're gonna have differences in focus. A pinhole camera, right, literally a pinhole, you guys ever use a pinhole camera, anybody?
Yes. It's
Those
so
are
much
fun, right?
yeah.
They don't have any lenses on them at all. Why? Because the pinhole is so small, it acts as a lens and everything's in focus. Because it's like a super small iris. It's like f100 or something, which is why you have to leave the lens open, the no lens. You gotta leave the pinhole open for like a minute to take a picture. Because you gotta get so much light in there. Because it's like f100 or more. Okay, so this is the simulator here. And really it's just all mathematical simulation. You see how I have a blur now. You see that? Because I'm at f5.6. See how my, can you guys tell this is kind of hazy here? When you do depth of field and you get this haziness, you must manually set the focal distance. In other words, you got to focus your camera. That's your focus distance here. Right now it's set to 5. If I set it to 1, see if I can get something close up. I'm just going to play with some numbers here. I'll just set it to 50. I'll go for some bigger numbers. I'll set it to 500. I'm getting more blur now. I'll set it to 1,000. I'll set it to 0.1. See how it's kind of changing the blur in my background? So it's literally, you're telling it where to focus. And so, let me open up this young girl again. I think you'll see it better. Import her, actually. She's pretty blurred. Guys see that she's blurry? We duplicate her and put her in 2 different planes. Here's my young girl character, and I'm going to duplicate. Right, not using command. Duplicate. There you go. One back here. Maybe I'll put one way up close. All right, I'm gonna go back to my camera and start playing around with this depth of field bit. Oh, here, yeah. Back to the camera. Depth of field. So let's set my focus distance to 50. Better. To 70. Better still. Okay, so you see how the one in front now is more in focus than the one in back? Turn off my nerves. Maybe make my f-stop even smaller. You can go like smaller than reality, like an f-stop of 1. So now I can really get this. Be different. All right, there. Now this space is completely in focus, and the one behind is very, very out of focus. Guys, see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They can really add some realism there. Make sense? This will be good for your final renders. You get some depth of field.
Can you make